Okay, so welcome to this week's episode. Today is our book club discussion of The Thank You Economy by Gary Vaynerchuk. So I'm Paula Williams.
I'm John Williams.
And I'm Mickey Gaminol.
We are AVCI, and AVCI's mission is
to help everybody out there in the aviation world sell more products and services.
Absolutely. Great. So first impressions of the book, what did you guys think?
I liked it quite a bit, actually. I thought it resonated pretty well with me as a small business owner and consumer. I really like the idea, the general idea of the book, just basically saying that businesses can have like a positive impact by being better businesses. It's very focused on doing what you like to do, and you can make a profit doing that.
Right. Exactly. John, what did you think?
Well, I think that he hit an old topic that did well at it, and that is customer service. Because these days, customer service is lacking in every industry, from aviation, airliners, down to buying donuts.
Right.
And he dug deep into it and really explained what he means by customer service.
Yeah. I think it was almost half customer service and half marketing, rather than, being a marketing book, which it's kind of marketed as. It turned out to be almost more of a customer service book than a marketing book. But I was actually really pleased with this because I had read also Gary Vaynerchuk's Crush It about a year ago, and it was just all Gary V yelling motivation and that kind of thing. And this one I think was much more helpful and much more toned down and much more sane than Crush It, for sure.
Well, he gives you ideas and specific suggestions on how to do things.
Exactly. Right.
And it doesn't matter who you are.
Right.
Company-wise.
Right. Exactly.
Newspaper carrier on up.
Yeah, absolutely. So some people may not know who Gary Vaynerchuk is. So, Mickey, do you want to go into that? Because I think it's really important to know where he's coming from, because that's almost as important as what he says.
Right. So he's kind of a younger guy, and he's kind of a entrepreneurial badass and everything like that. He's got a lot of acclaim and what have you among like the young entrepreneurs and that sort of thing. He started out working at his dad's liquor store, and he founded the wine library, and he started using that kind of as his first, baby business. And he put a lot of effort into it, as you'll see in the next slides. But he put, all that work into it. And now he has a very strong presence on social media that he continues to work at. So he's very big on why social media is something that every business needs to be invested in.
Exactly. And he was not an overnight success. I mean, he seems like an overnight success, but was certainly not, right?
Right. Yeah. No, and like as you can see here, from 2007 to 2011, he was working 4 to 8 hours every single day. And he'll be more than happy to tell you this. He goes on and on and on about how you need to hustle hard, you need to crush it, you need to he's basically just yelling at people to go to work all day long. Like that's what he says to all aspiring entrepreneurs.
And that's how this country grew up, with everybody working forever.
Right.
Yeah, no, and I think it's something like we live in such a relaxed society nowadays that it's really easy to get caught up in binge watching whatever, or just kind of lounging around. You can even get sucked into like healthy things like hiking or the gym or what have you. But these things are designed to keep us, like their whole business model is to keep us coming back and keep, repeat customers, return customers, that sort of thing. So it's difficult as an individual to, go out and do something, because there's so many things that are targeted at just keeping us kind of sedentary, or at least comfortable.
Exactly. I think he goes into, I've heard a couple of his rants on like the immigrant mindset and how you are, his family came from Poland, I think, and he says some really powerful things about, you think you have it hard because you come from a city, or, maybe you don't have a degree or whatever the situation is. Try being a Jew from Poland during the war, and, talks about his family and how badass they are, and uses a lot of really colorful language to explain all this. But I think that's really cool. Right. So just to kind of show you where he is now versus where he started, this is his YouTube channel, and he's got similar stats on other media. And I know some people are listening to this rather than watching it. So if that's you, he's got a daily ad revenue of $77 to $641, and that's just his personal channel. Then he's got Vayner Media and a whole bunch of other things in the wine library, and Ethos Wines, I think now, his own label. Over 1 million subscribers total. 1,423 subscribers, new subscribers today. 2,067 videos total. Has not yet posted a video today, which is early in the day that I pulled the screenshot. So, but he does post really, really frequently. 608 page views, and last updated today, and how long he's been tracking. So, that's and if you looked at any of his social media, he's got really similar stats. And a lot of people, I think, that get into social media think this is going to happen really, really quickly, because the people that sell them social media give them the impression that this is an instant sort of a thing, and it's really not, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that's what I'm talking about in one of the later slides. Is people expect it, since technology is so fast nowadays, they expect things to work out so much quicker. But that's not necessarily always the case.
Right, exactly. And Mickey, you and I have both read Stephen Covey and Gary Vaynerchuk, and I was just struck because I'm listening to Stephen Covey on an audiobook, because I happened to have that while I was reading Gary Vaynerchuk, and they say the same thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one says it a little more loudly because they want a little more attention. But Stephen Covey, I think Stephen Covey was already an esteemed businessman before he started, getting on Twitter, or at least, using a public platform.
Right.
Whereas Gary Vee kind of used the public platform to become an esteemed businessman, supposedly. Yeah. So he's a little louder for sure. I don't know how much they would get along. I mean, they do see the same thing. And they both, try to think win-win. I could see one getting on the other's nerves.
Wouldn't it be fun to have them both over for dinner?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think that would be hysterical. We'll need to set that up.
Definitely.
Right. Well, I used to work with Stephen Covey, and, he is he actually passed away last year, but he was very LDS. And if you're familiar with that culture, very conservative, very, what would you say? Careful not to offend anyone for any reason. And Gary Vee is kind of the opposite in style. But I would say the vast majority of their material they would agree on. So that's kind of fun. And one of the things in the book is talking about companies that take a stand on an issue or anything along those lines.
Yeah, I think you got to pick your battles.
Yeah.
One of the coolest things is, you like I said, like he says, is you can have kind of a heart. Like the more heart you put into your company, the better. And most people would think, like if I go do charity work with my company, like that's just like a PR thing, or just something that we do to, bring in more revenue at the end of the day. But you can actually do it. I mean, he makes the argument that you can do it sincerely. You can go out and honest to goodness want to make a difference in whatever, realm of society that you want. And oftentimes your consumers are going to flock to that. They're actually going to believe in and buy into that kind of that idea, the mission statement.
Right. And he even goes into some detail, which I think is great about, and so does Stephen Covey. But if you do this insincerely, it will backfire. If you do this as a publicity stunt, it will do you more harm than good because people will see right through it. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, people, we're programmed from birth to figure out what people's motivations are and what their intentions are. It's kind of either a defense mechanism or maybe a method of getting what you want out of the world, something like that. You can smell insincerity even in large corporations.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Right, Tom, what do you think about the BS meter?
Corporations are made up of people, so it's the people that do it one way or the other.
Right.
True that.
Oh, exactly. One thing that I like to do, and if somebody consults with us about, should we get involved with this cause or that cause or whatever, one thing you might want to do is see if it's something that's in alignment with your current customers. And one way to do that is to go into the insights in your Facebook page and say, what other pages do my customers like besides my own? So if I happened to be a very profound anti-NRA person, which I'm not, but if I were, that would probably be something that I would want to keep to myself. Because if I go to ABCI's Insights on Facebook, I can see that the first nonprofit organization that our customers are likely to have an affinity for is the National Rifle Association. So I can find a lot of things that I would agree with my customers about. So, maybe I'd want to emphasize the veterans aspect, or the this is actually the American Civil
Liberties.
No, it's the ACLU. This is something different.
Oh,
Actually, look this up. ACLJ. So it's another organization that a lot of people from our site also really like. So that gives us an idea of things that we would agree with our customers on and things that we can be in agreement on. And there's so many things you can disagree on. There's no reason to spend any energy on that, right?
Right. Yeah. The ACLJ is the American Center for Law and Justice.
American Center for Law and Justice.
That's something that any business can say, hey, we can get behind that. We believe in law and we believe in justice. So you don't necessarily have to, agree with every single thing that they do. But the majority of things that people like, are winning ideas, at least at some point, in some facet.
And exactly. That the NRA, if people don't like it, then I suspect that they really don't understand why it was formed.
True. Good point. Exactly. And, there's a lot of history and a lot of things that we can agree with, even about things that seem to be flashpoints. And, there's so much disagreement these days that we don't need to get into that. But there's lots of things that you can pull the same direction on. So I think that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good. You got to focus on kind of your strengths and your mutual ideas, things that you agree on.
Right. If you don't agree with your customers on anything, then you're probably in the wrong business, right?
Right.
Well, actually, you're probably out of business.
Right. That's true. It's got to be something you agree on.
Right.
Okay. So this is one of the really cool case studies that I thought was worth mentioning from the book.
Yeah. So Old Spice started an ad campaign at a Super Bowl where they had. So basically, what he was embodying the classical masculinity. He'd ride up on a white horse, and they were really like over the top. Like their idea behind the ad campaign was, this is going to make people laugh, like, because it's going to be completely ridiculous. He's going to be chopping down trees by accident and like doing all sorts of masculine things that wouldn't really happen. And people responded really well. They really got a kick out of it. And so they took to Facebook and Twitter and they commented and, discussed it. And then what Old Spice did is they would respond to the response, right? So all of these individuals who had their thoughts on their ad campaign got almost a validation for saying whatever they wanted to say. And it really brought in some really solid customers. And even in this part of the book, Gary Vee says that he goes out and tries the Old Spice product, just because he was out of deodorant at the time or whatever. But, so more and more people may have started trying it. Where they dropped the ball is eventually the ad campaign was, hit its contract or what have you, maybe 6 or 8 months later, and they just stopped responding to all these customers. So they had them all on the hook, but then they went back to being a big corporation, and those are just people. We don't need to communicate with individuals, which naturally is going to leave these individuals thinking like, well, screw that. I can buy if they don't care about me, why should I care about them?
Right. When it just made them look like a big dumb corporation because the time for that campaign ran out, they stopped responding. Obviously the people who they had either hired or that were part of the company, that they repurposed them to make them go do something else and left their fans. We don't care about you anymore. We're done with that. Which is terrible. It just makes you look like, okay, this was a manipulative trick. We did our manipulative trick and now we're done. And I think it did more harm than good. But anyway, that's to be seen probably in Old Spice's stock price next year, right?
Yeah, they just failed to follow through, and I suspect somebody got fired.
Right, exactly. It would be interesting to see their numbers, when they fell off the cliff on all their social media and things like that. But if you build relationships, it's just like, and he uses the analogy of dating. If you go out with somebody 4 times and then you suddenly stop calling them, it makes it seem insincere. And, you need to
it's called ghosting.
It's called ghosting, right? They ghosted their people. That's so rude.
Seriously. Yeah. People get ghosted enough without corporations ghosting.
That's right.
Right. Exactly. And here's another case study that I thought was really cool. Hank Hemming, the lawyer who tweets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess he was in Southern California, and he was finding that all of the companies that had the venture capital, the Southern California is so famous for, had more lawyers and accountants and consultants than they could shake a stick at. But until they got their funding, nobody would give them the time of day. So, he made a point to offer some free advice, and he had caveats all over it. And, you can see that if you're a lawyer, of course, you're going to put caveats all over everything, and you're going to be really careful what you say. But it's always been this tradition that lawyers are serious, and they would be the furthest people from using social media that you would even imagine, right?
Yeah. Well, and the thing about social media is everything you say sticks, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be there for years and years and years, and times change so really, really fast. So whatever is totally appropriate to say now, maybe next week is not. Everything is so mutable now.
Right.
A lawyer who, their job is to, do things to the letter of the law probably doesn't want a manuscript of every little thing that he said. And that's exactly what Twitter is made for, is it, it's a platform for you to yell obscenities or something else. And if you do that, you can totally mess yourself up. So
yeah.
Be the reason that, having a lawyer who tweets is, kind of a contradiction.
Right. But I think what he did that was really smart is he'd kind of do just the relationship sort of stuff on Twitter, and then he would take them off to his site where he had all these disclaimers, and by clicking this site, you agree that I am not giving you legal advice, blah, blah, blah. So he had some really good gating going on his social media, where he would just say, let's see if we can help you with that. I can give you a consultation, So he would reach out to people who had problems, but he wouldn't give them advice on Twitter. So I think he did a nice job of fencing that off.
Yeah.
Yeah. John, I know you got some concerns about social media.
Well, and it's sort of a segue into what I want to talk about, but and I am of the opinion that to get any ROI out of it, it's a lot of work. You can get negative ROI out of it very instantaneously, very easily.
Without even being on it.
With it, exactly.
Other people are on it talking about you, right?
Well, not even that, but the company that you've been with for 10 years lowers the price for new customers and doesn't give you that as well.
Mm.
That tends to make you want to know, wait a minute, I guess they don't care about me anymore. And
Yeah.
you start looking around.
Right. Exactly. Cool. Okay. So these are the 10 reasons that smart people don't use social media. And I thought we'd each take one of them and talk about it. So, John, why don't you keep going where you're going? And
Well, his contention is that if you get to a certain point where you have people out there talking about products and actually being, quote, customer service because they give their experiences and how you would use this product. If you have this problem with it, do this.
mm-hmm.
Well, that's fine, but there's no guarantee
Mm-hmm.
that that's going to happen. And whereas if people are complaining, there's pretty much a guarantee they're going to use it for that.
Right.
So it's very easy to go negative on ROI.
Mm-hmm.
Very difficult to get a positive. And then even if you get positive ROI, it's highly suspect these days because a lot of the larger companies have had fake reviews.
Yeah.
For who knows? I don't know. People that don't like the product will give a fake review, or people that like a different product will give a fake review, or whatever. And so you don't really know when you look at reviews. You have to sort of. It all goes back to your intelligence. You have to look at a lot of reviews and then merge it together in your brain and figure out whether you think it's good or not.
Right. I remember reading a thing, I think it was in the Wall Street Journal, that said that people under the age of 40 have a much more developed sense of BS or have a better BS detector than a lot of the rest of us. And I think it's just because they've been exposed to social media for a lot longer, a bigger percentage of their life, right?
With respect to social media, I only use LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And that's personal choice. If you have a company of any size, then you need to use multiple venues.
Right.
Because otherwise you're going to lose. But that being said, you use multiple venues you have to work at.
Right.
You have to figure out where the demographics of your proposed customer set and then go and wherever those people go on social media. It's
right.
Twitter or Instagram or whatever.
So these are some statistics that you flagged from the book about customer service and ROI. Do you want to talk about those?
I'm not sure. Well, I would switch to a competitor because of, and assuming that I could determine for sure they had the reputation of better customer service, mm-hmm. because that's all people sell anymore. Everything else anybody can sell.
Mm-hmm.
There's just nothing else.
That's true.
The second point, absolutely. If you can't get good service, it doesn't matter about the product, the price, because you don't like it.
Right. Yeah, it puts a bad taste in your mouth. It doesn't matter how helpful the product was. If the customer service is crap, you're not going to be happy with the product or the whole transaction.
Yep.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons, well, I won't name names, but we would be willing right away, as soon as there's another internet provider out here, to change because of lack of customer service.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I think that's common. I think that's out here in Vegas too. There's these monopolies that exist, and their customer service goes downhill because you can't really go anywhere else.
That will bottom sometime, but it's going to take a while.
Yeah, and I think Gary V's premise from the book is that social media, or at least your social media should be all about customer service. It should be about your relationship with customers, because it's the only advertising media in which people can talk back to you. So, that's where he's making the connection between customer service and social media.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point.
Yeah. So he says, if you get a good ROI from customer service, and this is the easiest and cheapest way to do customer service, then by all means, this is where you should be spending your time and money, right?
And he says something to the effect that traditional media lean on social media to find out what's really going on with the brand.
Yeah, that's true. You get much better statistics. Cool. Okay, so let's go back to the smart reasons people don't use social media. And Mickey, you wanted to take number 9, right?
Right. It takes too long to pay off. And I've noticed this with my own business, with my tutoring company. I would pay for the occasional ad, and then I would get this gratification that says, "Hey, congratulations, your ad reached X amount of people, 3,000 or something." I'd be like pretty excited about that. I would be like, "Yes, I'm reaching out to people. They're hearing about me. Oh, I hope I can handle all the business I'm gonna get." I'm just sitting by my phone. Nobody's calling, and it's not paying off. It didn't come through. But come to find out, the people that I reached with those ads, a lot of them went on and liked my page. So then I can continue to publish content. Just funny little math videos or quirky math memes or what have you. And these people are seeing them, and as time has gone on, more and more people actually have started to call me, right? It does take a long time, but the time is going to pass either way. Like, honestly, tomorrow is coming either way. So I don't think time should be necessarily a factor for investing in the future, right? You can't be like, oh, it's going to take a week for me to renew my tags. I'm just not going to do it. Like, nobody would ever. That's absolutely ridiculous. So it's the same thing here. Time is going to come and it's going to go. If you're not using your time to create an online presence, whatever you're doing with your time probably isn't as worth it. You might as well use a little bit of extra time to create an online presence, post a couple things, just be quirky, have fun, figure out what people want. And you get a lot more than necessarily the pay or the customer at the end of the day. You get to figure out what they want and like what they enjoy, which is better in the long run.
And that's why Gary addresses that in the book as well.
Yeah.
Say it again, John.
Gary addresses that very nicely in the book as well.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. I mean, he spent from 2007 to 2011, spending 4 to 8 hours a day building his audience. He was not looking for an immediate return. And, when you're building relationships with people, and this is a Stephen Covey thing again, slow is fast. When you're working with people and when you're building relationships, because you try to do something too fast, people feel like you're trying to pull something over on them. And so it takes, what did we decide, John? More than 20 contacts, especially in the aviation industry, where maybe they see an ad, then they see one of your cute little videos, and then they get a postcard, and then they get a newsletter, and then they get a phone call, 20, seriously. Different touches before they become a customer for some of our clients. And that's because they're large ticket, high involvement, high trust products and services. So,
well, and it's not just that, it's you're dealing with people. And how many times did I ask you out for coffee when I first met you?
I lost count, but it was a long time.
Yeah,
was it worth it?
Of course.
Oh, cool. Of course you would say that. Cool. No, that's cool. Okay, so and then another. Oh, go ahead.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the 20 times, because that's actually, I just read that part in Guerrilla Marketing as well, that it takes 20 contacts before people actually, go out and buy something. They chew on it for so long. So yeah, stay tuned for that in the next book for sure.
Exactly. Right. Okay. And then the last point I'm going to cover, reasons smart people don't use social media. They feel like it only works for startup or lifestyle or tech brands. Not true. There have been people who have sold private jets from a Facebook post. That's not the only contact that they have, but it's sometimes the thing that starts the chain.
Or ends it.
Or ends the chain. Exactly. So you don't know whether this is it's going to be the first contact or the 20th, but it certainly is a less expensive way to contact people than going to see them 20 times or making 20 phone calls. So it's a really nice addition to your mix, and it is incredibly effective if you do it right. So yeah, I really like this book a lot more than I thought I would. So Gary Vee, scores one for the old folks. I mean, I thought it was a really good book. But so, John, you want to sum up your thoughts, and then we'll move on to next month.
I already did.
Okay. Nikki, you have any final words about this one?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think he was a little tamer than he is on his online stuff, which is digestible. It's something that you're able to read. If he was as loud and obnoxious in this book as he was on a YouTube video, it would be a marathon to try to get through this book. But he, makes it really easy to read. It's a large font size. It's, it's also very casual conversation. It can relate to the layman. Like, you don't have to have your master's in marketing to understand what he's talking about.
Right.
And you also don't have to be a techie. You don't have to know about every single social media or, what an Ethernet cord is. Like, it's very, very simple.
Yeah.
And you smile. I mean, just on life experiences, you get it, and you find yourself grinning from time to time.
Right. Yeah, very enjoyable and also really good information. So I give it 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, same.
Yeah?
Sure.
Wow, we agree on a book. This is a first. Cool. We'll see how we do with next month. This is J. Conrad Levinson's Guerrilla Marketing. We actually had this as part of our book club, I think it was 4 years ago, but we figured it's probably time to give it another read. It is a completely updated and expanded edition. So even if you were with us 4 years ago, read it again, or at least read the new parts, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
I've already started up on it, and it's a little more technical, but so far so good.
Yeah. Seems to be really good information. I was hoping that some of our smaller companies and startups, especially, if you don't have a ton of money and you have more time than money, this is a great book for you. So I'm looking forward to discussing that next month. We're actually a little bit behind in our recording, so it may not be a full month before we get to this one. And then we'll move on to the next one, which just got sent to our customers a couple of weeks ago. So we'll get caught up. Great. Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Have a great day. See you later.
Thanks.